So, I want to do a quick video just to demonstrate some interesting things I found on Yuumi now that she's out. I've played a lot of games of her, and I think there's a lot of cool tricks you can do that are not like super obvious, and I kind of want to explain them. So I think the first thing that's really interesting is that when you attach yourself onto an ally, if you're on red side, you always kind of spawn. You can despawn only in this like invisible box in the top right of a character that you're attached to. So like I can detach really far away like this. If I try to detach to the bottom left, I don't detach very far. So what this means is that if your ally is next to a cliff like this, you can detach right over, which is pretty convenient. Because I can imagine scenarios, for example, like let's say you're bot lane and you want to get a ward, you can put a ward like that, for example. Or let's say you're running away and you want to go over this dragon pit, you can just dash like that, which is pretty nice. I think that's a very like helpful thing to know. And I think this works on pretty much any thin wall in League. Like I think I would say the rule of thumb is if you can maybe Aatrox dash over it or Riven Q over it, then you can definitely just Yuumi jump out of it, which is cool. I think the second interesting thing I found with Yuumi is that you can master E. So when you're in an ally and you cast your Q, like you see how the Q range is like this blue circle, right? One thing you can do to extend the range is that you can cast your Q and then you can just jump into another ally. So if I cast my Q and I jump like this, the Q range is pretty big. That's pretty cool. I think that's really useful. So when you start a fight, so let's say you're joining a team fight right now, you can go here, start your Q cast, and then you have a lot more time for the build up to happen. It travels faster and it hits the target you want. I would say the third useful tip I would give is that let's say there's an enemy here and you want to try to get in range to ult. Like I think what most people would do is that they would like jump, and then cast ult. But the thing is, you only really need 3 pulses on your ult, and honestly, I don't think the other pulses are that big of a deal. So what I would do is that I would just cast an ult a little early. Maybe not that early. Like maybe on this jump over here, like I would cast my ult, like for example like this. Start casting and then I start jumping. So that way enemies have a lot less time to react to your ult. You could probably get maybe 1 pulse in before they can react immediately, and I think that's usually enough to root them. And that's the most important part about her ult, is that you want to root them, because it roots them for a pretty long time. I think another really important thing you have to do with Yuumi is that let's say you're team fighting, you know, you throw out your Q, you use your spells, you know, you're trying to heal, throw out your ult, use your Q. My rule of thumb is that if you have all your spells on cooldown like this, you should just detach auto immediately and then reattach. Because reapplying your shield in teamfights is pretty significant. I don't think it seems significant, but it does. Like, it doesn't seem significant on paper, but definitely matters a lot. Because, for example, this is a 200 HP shield, and if you have a target that's ignited, or if they're ignited, or if they're healing reduction, like jumping into them and just healing might not be enough. I think a lot of times if you get the shield off and then you jump into them and you apply the shield and give them 200 raw health that doesn't get reduced by ignite or anything, I think that's pretty good. So I would highly recommend just getting used to having your trade pattern, even in lane, just be something like you Q, use your heals, and whenever you can use your W immediately for free after you detach auto and then reattach. And this is pretty important in teamfights too. It also might be helpful in teamfights just to detach to distract enemies. I've had a lot of fights where I detach for a split second, people immediately try to kill me because, you know, you have like 1,000 health, and then you jump back in time with maybe 100 health, and then you barely win the fight because they wasted resources on you. I think that's... I think you should use yourself as a decoy sometimes, but be careful with it. I feel like the people that do poorly as Yumi only do poorly as her because they just stay inside a person like this. Don't right click. They just play with their left hand basically and don't really do anything. But I think it's important to use your kit to the fullest potential, like detach every now and then, spam your abilities, kite around. And knowing all these small tricks like this too, because you have a lot of time to focus on other things going on in a fight since you don't have to right click and position yourself. I think that's pretty much all the interesting tips. Oh yeah, I think the one last tip I would give, which is just kind of an optimization tip, is when you're walking back to lane, one, try to attach yourself to an ally because they're just faster. But two, since your packs are always regenerating as soon as you use the charge, you should pretty much always be using a charge whenever you can, just to get more movement speed to walk around to places faster. It's kind of like with Bard health packs, you kind of just leave the health packs everywhere. You should just always use your packs whenever you can, so that way they're always being recharged. Or like Zyra plants, you just always plant a seed whenever it's off cooldown. That way you have a lot of extra movement speed to work with. Oh yeah, attaching to teammates are also helpful too. I think that if your AD takes TP, I think that's really helpful. You can TP back to lane for free, which I think is like really, really convenient. And the Ardent buff, yeah. Let me talk about Ardent. Let me buy Ardent Sensor and go back here. So if I have a shield on, you can see this... Oh, wait, what the heck? This stupid thing. Why is this thing covering? Okay, there we go. You can see how this target has Ardent Sensor, right? So right now, the reason why they're getting Ardent Sensor is because I have a shield up. So basically, if I jump in between these allies and I keep my shield up, I'm going to keep reapplying Ardent Sensor to them. And that's pretty helpful because if you are, for example, taking Baron and you have your shield up, you can just keep jumping in between all your teammates and you can keep applying Ardent Sensor to multiple people over and over again, which is pretty nice. Now, let's say you don't have your shield up, I need to break my shield, give me a second. Okay, let's say I don't have my shield. I would say the best way to apply Ardent Sensor if you're in a, let's say you're doing Dragon or something, or Baron, is when you first jump to them, you can apply it because of Airy shield, right? So what I would do is that I would jump to the first target, they get Airy, jump to the second target, apply heal, and then once you see that your Airy is back on you, then you can jump back to the target and you can reapply Airy. So like it'd be... So the order would be like you jump, they get Airy, jump to the next target, Airy is still returning to you. Sorry, like this. And then see now Airy's back to me because I used my health pack before Airy came back, and now I can jump back. And that... Does that not reapply Airy? Really? I have to detach and then do it. I see. Okay, I actually didn't know that. So you have to detach if you want to keep reapplying Airy. That's good to know. I guess that's helpful in the laning phase too sometimes. Like if you're just laning and you have nothing to do, you can just like jump in them for a free Airy shield. I guess that's pretty cool. And also, yeah, I don't recommend Flash. I think that I just took Flash for the purpose of the practice tool, but I think in general you should pretty much... I like heal exhaust a lot because I think that in general Yumi's lane sucks and you want to play really defensively, so having heal and exhaust to kind of negate as much damage as you can is pretty nice. I don't really like taking exhaust ignite for a kill pressure lane just because I don't feel like Yumi wins most lane matchups. I feel like at best she breaks even, and I think that's fine because as long as you get out of the laning phase without dying, I think you just win the game because you outscale most people. So That's my personal opinion. I found a lot of success with heal, exhaust, and then have your AD carry take TP. And I pretty much always take Airy. You could go Guardian, but I don't think that makes sense because I like, for example, being able to check bushes because let's say there's an enemy here. You want to check if there's an enemy in this bush waiting for you. You throw a Q and you see that your Airy procs, and then you're like, oh, okay, then I know that someone's there now. Which is a pretty helpful, just pretty helpful information in general. You could go Guardian, I guess. And I haven't tested Spellbook, but Spellbook might be okay. But I just haven't played it enough to know. So, yeah, that's pretty much all the immediate tips and tricks I have for her, outside of the very obvious things. And, yeah, Yumi's just super fun. Like, I've played her all day today, and she's a blast to play. So, definitely try her out.